Hello, I'm Angela Princeville, and on this segment of Ask AP, I'm going to be answering a question relating to abandoning the family home. And the context of this question is there is a couple that's separated and they own a home together, and they're still living in the home together. And it's not surprising, one party cannot continue with that arrangement because of whatever conflict and whatnot that's going on. So they would like to move out of the home. And they're wondering if they do that, would that be considered abandoning the family home? And of course, the thought around that is, well, if I abandon the family home, are there any consequences to me? And does that mean I lose my right to an equal share of the home? This is a question I get asked very often, and I'm not really sure where that concept originates. Because in Ontario, there's no such thing. There's nothing like abandoning um, your home or any property in that sense. Because when your right to a share of any property is based on either your ownership interest in that property or your beneficial interest in that property. So if either of those exist, then it doesn't matter whether you're living in the home. So living in your home is not a requirement for you to get your interest in the home. So in a case that's in a scenario where there's a jointly owned matrimonial home, for example, the fact that you move out of the home has nothing to do with you realizing your equity in the home. You're jointly, you're a joint owner, and you know, you're just an owner, so you have an interest in the home, and you have to nothing can be done to take that away from you just based on the fact that you've moved out of the home. And even if you're not a joint owner as well, let's say one party owns the home, owns the matrimonial home. Well, again, moving out of the home, it doesn't take away anything if you have a beneficial interest in the home because, for example, you're making a trust claim, or just because you have a right to equalization of that property, then it doesn't matter whether you're in the home physically or if you actually move out of the home. None of that really matters. You will get the equalization that you're owed. You will realize your interest in that property, whether beneficial or based on title, just simply for the fact that you have an interest. It doesn't matter where you're living at that point in time. It would move out of the country if you want to. It doesn't really affect your interest. Now, obviously, if you move out of the country and you're not responding to the other side, and let's say it's a court process, you're not responding, you're not filing your materials back, filing your materials in time, then of course you could lose your claims if they proceed uncontested. But the only reason why you're losing that interest in the home, it's not because you moved out, it's because it's created a ripple effect and all that. And a court would not just give the other side your interest in the home, right? There might be some other factors. It might be, give transferred in lieu of support payments or something along those lines. So the concept of abandoning the home just because you're not physically there, it's really not a thing in Ontario family law, and I really would like to disabuse that. So when you're thinking of moving out of the home, the considerations should be around, safety for yourself, your mental, your physical safety, your mental well-being, affordability factors. If you're having to contribute half of the cost to this family home, and now you're required to move somewhere else, and maybe you're renting, practical considerations like that is what I think of, right? Because if you're renting, now you have two home expenses, and God knows if there's support obligations and other things that flow out of that. Speaking of support, there's also the practical consideration of the children. I am genuinely more concerned about parenting arrangements when a person is leaving the home than I am about abandoning the property. Actually, I'm not even concerned about abandoning the property because there's no such thing. But I am concerned about parenting because if you move out of the home and things don't settle for a while and the other person is notoriously withholding parenting time and all that, then there's concerns around creating a new status quo that might be harder for you to break. Now, remember, my first concern was making sure that your physical and mental well-being are taken care of. So don't say, well, I'm going to remain in the home for the children if you're in a scenario where you could get accused of being abusive physically to the other party, or even the other way around. You want to be careful as well. You don't want to be a victim of domestic abuse just because you're considering sort of the best parenting arrangements. It's just something, I'm just saying, it's a factor that you need to consider when you're moving out of the home. What kind of parenting arrangements do we have in place? So don't just move without kind of putting your mind to that, and making, if you need legal assistance to do that, make sure that, you do your best in that regard. And then obviously look at your finances, have a budget. You might need to talk to, a financial professional if you have one you're already talking to. And yeah, when you consider, those are the considerations, practical considerations are what you should be thinking of when you're thinking of moving out of the home and out of the family residence. But abandoning the family home is not a concept. You do not lose any of your rights to the property by choosing to move out of the home for your well-being. So I hope that answers the question. And if I wasn't clear enough, there is no such thing as abandoning the home. Anyway, I think you get the picture by now. And until next time, goodbye.